Hello and welcome to another episode of True Dungeon Talk with Trent. I'm Trent. I'm your host. Thank you so much for everyone who was logging in here. It's break a leg. I'm gonna type this in and see how quickly you guys see it. It's break a leg. All right. So for everyone who's new, True Dungeon is an amazing game, and this show talks all about True Dungeon. We talk about, pardon me while I get my questions ready here. We talk about the game, the history. We interview people from behind the scenes and fellow players, how-to videos, tips and tricks, and all kinds of things about tokens, of course. And we do live shows like we're doing now. And thank you everybody who's saying break a leg, turkey, etc. So let's see. Hello, Brian. Asliel Nigel, I think I said that right. Ashton, Snake Eyes, Myron. Let's see, Brian, I said you already. Bill, 1, 2, free for all, and another build. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this episode or watching live. And for those of you who are watching this into the future or in the future, I should have told you the lottery tickets, the numbers, but sorry, I did not do that. In today's episode, I'm going to do a little brief update on the website called TrueDungeonTokens.com, and that's for all the fans of token collecting. There's a nice little update that I think you'll like, and then we'll get right to it, to the big thing for today's show, an interview with Jeff Martin, the creator of True Dungeon. It's going to be very exciting. I have lots and lots of questions for him. This episode, we're going to concentrate on the early years, a little bit of Jeff's upbringing. We'll talk about D&D, I'm sure, which was a big inspiration for him, and the things that inspired True Dungeon. And we'll get up to probably right around Gen-Con 2003 is what I'm thinking. I hope to do many interviews with Jeff, and that's the segment that this episode will be about. Feel free to post questions in the chat. I'll try to get to them, and if not, we'll use them in future episodes. And as I said, we'll try to concentrate on the earlier ones or the early portions of True Dungeon, so feel free to ask questions related to that. And let's see. So let's get started. First up, I want to give you a little... let's see here. There we go. So this is a screenshot of TrueDungeonTokens.com. If you haven't visited yet, feel free to check it out. This is a free website that my buddy David and I worked on, and a new buddy named Mark is helping us out as well. This new feature is called Bulk Edit. This you can see with the arrow right there. This is for anything that's in your search results. For instance, if you said, show me all the 2021 Platinum tokens, and they all appeared there, you could click Bulk Edit and then add them all. So in essence, anything that's inside your search results, you can use Bulk Edit to add. It can be notes about the tokens, it could be wants, it could be haves, etc. So all kinds of fun stuff there. Okay, so that's that. And also, if you have any questions about that website, there's a send feedback button. Click that, and we'll get to your questions. And also, if you have any ideas for future revisions of the website, please let us know. We have lots and lots of ideas, but we want this to be something that the community uses and enjoys. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. Quick plug, TrentTokens.com. Hold on, this is my water. I'm going to hit the cough button here. Okay, let's check out the chat here. Greetings all from Ramsden. Dimitri. Oh, okay. Raven. Oh my God, Raven. I'm not sure if you saw the we're on the last time live, but I see you here now. Oh man. This show isn't about Raven, but I want to do a show about Raven. If whoever doesn't know, Raven is the most amazing person in the whole world, and I adore her head to toe. And not that I don't adore everybody else there, but I'm sorry. I think everybody else would understand that I'm looking in the chat. David, you're okay too. But sorry for everyone else. I love Raven a lot. So without further ado, let's dive right in and get to the meat of this show and what this is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Jeff Martin, the creator of True Dungeon.
Hey, hello.
What's up, buddy? Uh-oh, I got this other thing in the background here. Let me get rid of that. All right, there we go.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Trent. I much appreciate it.
I much appreciate it more than you much appreciate it. It's so cool to see you and talk to you. Let me see. Let me adjust my little tiny thing there. There we go. So, Jeff, thank you very much for being here. It looks like everybody in the chat is saying hello to you.
Hello.
Yeah, so we're all very excited that you were able to take time out of your very busy schedule to speak with us. So I'm going to just dive right in here and get into the... actually, I do have a bonus question. Jeff, would you tell the world who your most favorite player of True Dungeon is? Please go ahead.
Trent.
As you saw, he said Trent. So, Jeff,
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, that is just too... I mean, stop it. It's just too much. I mean, everybody heard that, right? Jeff Martin, the creator of True Dungeon, said his favorite player of the game, True Dungeon, is me, Trent. Oh, what a special thrill that is.
Yeah.
So,
I think I mentioned zero before that in another way, but
I'm sorry, you're breaking up there. I can't quite hear you. That's all. It's on videotape. It's proof. We can't go back in time. So without further ado, you'll have to pardon me. I have so many questions over here. I'm going to just dive right in. All right. So to get started, Mr. Jeff Martin. So here we're going to start on the interview. Here we go. Let's see. You this is kind of weird, but how did you hear about this position at the company, and why do you want to work here? It doesn't sound right. How about your greatest strengths or your greatest weaknesses?
Probably selecting shows to appear on. Probably.
This is that. And where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years at this company? These questions don't seem right.
Yeah, I think you may have the wrong ones there.
Hold on. That was supposed to be humorous. I'm not sure if
I thought it was funny.
If anybody thought it was humorous, but these guys did. These guys thought it was humorous. Thank you, my audience. So, all right. So, all kidding aside, I want to start at the beginning. Of you. According to the interwebs, you were born in Mount Carmel. Was it Carmel? Carmel? How do you say that?
Mount Carmel.
Mount Carmel, Illinois. Is that true? Is that where you were born, and is that where you grew up?
Yeah, if you go to the hospital there at Gibson County, there's a little plaque on the wall. No, not really. I was born there. We lived in Olney for a while, then up to Belvedere, which is kind of up by the Wisconsin border in Illinois. And then I was 5. We moved to Kewanee, the hog capital of the world. Great place to grow up.
Oh my God! Sounds like it was good eating there.
Good eating, yeah. Every year they have a hog days. They have the world's largest pork chop fry. It was nice. And I grew up on the edge of town. It's still in the neighborhood, really nice old neighborhood, but it was on the edge of town. And so I get the best of both worlds. I got to go run around the creeks and also ride my bike down to the park and play baseball. So
awesome.
Great.
Did you guys have those fairs where you could, go from booth to booth to booth and eat all kinds of different foods? And was it all pig?
No, it wasn't all pig. They had this same carnival food everybody else had, but they also had this awesome pork chop. They had these huge grids that were like 8 by 10, and they would just sandwich the butterfly pork chops between them, and they'd flip them over on these huge grills. It was amazing.
Welcome to True Dungeon, talking about pork chops.
Pork chops. I'm hungry now.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of eating. I remember fairs when I was little, and they would have this fresh sausage, and there would be biscuits, and you would put the sausage on it with grape jelly. It sounds insane, but it's one of the most amazing tasting things ever. Yeah. So, how about your family? Brothers, sisters, etc.?
Yeah, I've got a couple of brothers. My older one's passed away now, but I've got a smaller brother. He's about 7 years younger than me. So I was kind of his really big brother, I guess you'd say, and I took
Mm-hmm.
care of him, and I babysat him a lot and that kind of stuff. So he's always been my baby brother.
Now, would you consider yourself a nerd when you were growing up? Were you always in the corner of a book as a bookworm, or how would you consider yourself as a child?
Uh, I don't know what I was. I can't really put a label on it. I didn't really read much at all. I wasn't much of a reader, man. I didn't really start reading sci-fi fantasy till I was probably about 13. I was on a trip to Alaska and I was looking for a book to read, and I found the Sword of Shannara or Shanra, however you say that, and I really loved that book, and that kind of launched me into the whole medieval fantasy genre. But growing up, grew up in a Catholic neighborhood with tons of kids, and we were always playing sports around the park and front yards and that kind of stuff. But I also loved playing Ghosts in the Graveyard and Boogeyman and Kick the Can, that kind of stuff. So that was what I really liked. Growing up, the funny part was this kind of a precursor to True Dungeon. I fell in love with like doing haunted houses in neighbors' basements.
Oh,
So every year,
really?
yeah. So every year I'd go around and I'd talk one of the moms into letting us have a haunted house in their basement. And I was probably the youngest kid in the group that we hung out with. There were some like 4 years older than me. There were a lot of between that age, and I was always the guy that was kind of organizing it, and I'd draw little maps out, and we'd organize and
Wow.
plan all our little scares, and it was kind of fun. It was a little good trainer, a nice training for True Dungeon. So it was also fun because I got to experience some of the frustrations of that you can have with an event when things are just crazy. And you don't have a lot of time. We had our
Hmm.
best and last one we did was in a barn that was like we lived on the edge of town, and there was a really nice house that had a big apple orchard, and they had a barn, and we talked them into letting us have it there. And so
Wow.
you had to walk down this lane through this orchard at night. It was pretty kind of creepy just getting there. So I asked one of the neighborhood kids to they had the album for the haunted house, Disney's haunted house. And I thought that would be awesome. So they, in the old days, they had a tape recorder with the D batteries, and I
Yeah.
told them, "Hey, man, make us a tape for the haunted walk." We developed a whole story about how it was haunted and there was graves everywhere. And then it was all set up. It was going great. Then opening night, I'm sitting up on a ladder looking out the little belfry of the barn, and I'm ready to release the bat. There's a bat we had on a string, and it was going to come down and scare people. Then about that time, I started hearing the Archie singing. Sugar, 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 whatever that song was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when I've realized, I forgot to tell him to do the whole tape. He just recorded the album, and that was it. He didn't like re-record it.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I was like, man, I got to get better at communicating, or I'm going to be in trouble. So yeah,
Yeah.
we had
So
to, our haunted trail to the haunted house was not that scary when the Archies were playing. So
that's funny. So if we ever hear the Archies in True Dungeon, we'll know what happened. You
yes,
forgot to tell them to do the tape correctly.
yes, that's
Yeah.
true. Yep, I should have been more specific and said do the whole side or both sides, but he did exactly what I asked him. I just did, yeah. So yeah, even then I'm 13 and I'm still like, oh man. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I think that really set me up for wanting to do some live stuff later.
Did, when you started to do the live stuff later, did you remember those moments, and do you think it kind of gave you the foundational attraction to that kind of fun to create something for other people to experience? I think it's a very unique thing. You hear actors who are adults now say, "Oh, when I was little, I used to say a joke to my grandma or whatever," and that
Yep.
seems exactly like this. And I've never heard anything like that. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's me. I always liked putting on events and stuff. We did magic shows and talent shows and all kinds of stuff. I just liked putting on events for people, and Yeah, I'd throw surprise parties for people, that kind of stuff. I just like to do that. I just liked having fun for other folks. So
That's really cool. That what a great little tidbit of info, and exactly the kind of stuff that I was hoping to hear. Uh, Speaking of the internet, I found something else on there that said that you had two childhood heroes. Who were they and why?
well, as most kids in the 70s growing up, you watched a lot of TV. And of course, the two greatest characters of all time, Captain Kirk and Colonel Hogan, they both got the ladies and they both never basically failed. They always came up with some kind of creative solution to whatever they wanted. And I just thought they were amazing. So, yeah, I've always thought those were, yeah, I always wanted to be those people. I always like to try to think I can always think my way out of something. So, that's that's
Awesome.
what I do.
So
Yeah.
you're clearly a Kirk instead of a Picard fan.
Uh,
Or
yeah, I'd say. I mean,
did you watch the later series?
yeah, I did. I watched. I didn't watch. I watched the first season when it first came out. Didn't really like it, and then I started. I picked it up again later when they had a few more seasons out, and then I really liked it from there. I liked them both. I just, if I had to pick one, I'd say Kirk, just because he's got the um, Kobayashi Maru type thing going. So that's me.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch the new movies with the new
Yeah,
Kirk,
yeah,
etc.?
yeah. I really liked the first one. They got a little worse after that, but I thought it was a good take on it. They really needed to, jump start it somehow, and they got a little crazy with killing exploding Vulcan, but I understood why they had to do it, and I was kind of hoping there'd be more, but yeah, didn't
Yeah.
happen.
We shall see. I never watched Star Trek growing up, and I watched The Next Generation later in life, and became a big fan of Picard and Data. If it was a Picard and or Data episode, I was in. So those are
Sure.
some of my favorites. Uh, w- Growing up, you said you had lots and lots of kids and a handful of games that you guys like to play. I assume
Yeah.
eventually you started to play D&D. Tell us how you got into that.
Well, luckily, like I lived next door to a large Catholic family that there was a really awesome dad there that wanted to keep his kids entertained. So he bought a lot of games. They had a bookshelf in their living room that it was packed with different kinds of games. And I was just happened to be over there one day, and I just happened to notice the Dungeons and Dragons thing, and I like took it down and looked at it, and was immediately enchanted by it. And inside the box, he had a little clip, a news clip where somebody had gotten lost in the steam tunnels, and he put it in there. And I read that, and I thought that excited my imagination about all that. And so I asked if I could borrow it, and I took it home and like read over it several times. And eventually, a couple weeks later, I talked my dad into taking me over to Breed Loves Toys in Kiwani and buy my own set. I think that was probably 76, maybe 77. I'm not sure.
And what box or version was that you got?
The oldest basic D&D, the oldest one. Um, first edition hadn't come out yet. The Monster Manual came out shortly after that, but they hadn't had the Player's Handbook or DMG out yet.
Oh,
So
wow. So real
yeah,
early.
yeah, the Monster Manual came out first, which was kind of confusing. I thought they kind of went together. Like, so I was trying to get the basic and the advanced monster book to work together, and it didn't quite work.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting why they put them out that way, but I guess I can see why. But yeah, so that from there, I just have always loved D&D, and I tried to get like a little group going in Kiwani, but it just wasn't, didn't really happen for a lot of reasons. I played a little bit with my older brother and some of the neighbor kids. It wasn't until when I was about 15 and a half, 16, we moved down to Southern Illinois in Marion, and that's where I met a group of folks, and we played a lot, like every weekend, every night, every Friday and Saturday
Wow.
night. So great
You,
times.
you still play with any of those guys?
Yep. In fact, we play D&D. I still play D&D every week with them online right now because of COVID. And we also play some. We also did some wargaming, like old Avalon Hill game stuff. I'm currently playing old Third Reich war game with them online as well on Tabletop Simulator. So having a great time, still game with them.
That's so amazing. Those games look really cool to me, and except I feel like I'm not sure if you know this, I have somewhat of an addictive personality. All these binders back here.
Yeah.
And you might be aware of that. But I fear that if I were to get into any other game like that, I would have to have one of everything ever from the very beginning to now.
Sure.
And one crazy obsession at a time for me. So this, it looks like the people in the chat got some Kirk fans. Oh, hi, Mike. Got some Colonel Hogan fans, Picard fans. I'm with you there. Myron likes the original Avalon Hill game. Those games seem pretty interesting to me. So hopefully one day I'll check them out. Now, somewhere along the line, you met a beautiful, very intelligent woman who unfortunately made a couple of bad life choices. Lori.
Several.
Please tell us how you met Lori.
Well, she wanted a job, so I hired her. That's why I worked at a movie theater at that time as a manager, and she came in. She came down for college and wanted a part-time job. So I saw that she was from my old hometown, and I made her talk. I made her talk about it without telling her I was from there, and she badmouthed it, and it was really funny. So,
is that true? Are you being serious?
That is completely true.
Oh my God, she badmouthed the town where you grew up.
Yeah. When I told her, I grew up in Kiwani, she was like, "Oh," you could see the look on her face. Well, there goes this job. But
was this during the interview that you made her talk bad about the town,
yes,
or she happened to talk bad about it?
Yeah, because it was on her her application that she went to a school in that town. So yeah, it was awesome. It was great.
That is hilarious.
That was the first time I got to troll Lori, and I've done it several thousand times after
that.
Oh
my God.
So it's awesome.
So how long did you work at that movie theater together?
A couple years. She ended up getting a job at an optometrist, working there, and I moved on, did some other stuff too. So yeah, a couple years. I didn't date her until probably almost time she was ready to quit. I kept bugging her about going out on a date, and she'd always turn me down. But eventually, she made a bad mistake. I wore my purple shirt. That was it. She was done. We went on a date with I had my purple polo shirt. She was swept off her feet.
I mean, who could resist? Was this during the Prince era? Purple Rain, maybe?
No, it's just I looked really good in this purple thing. If I still I need to find out what happened to that shirt because I could use it from time to time. But yeah,
purple is a very regal color. So
agreed.
Very tingly.
Yes,
that's very cool. What other kind of jobs did you do before you started True Dungeon?
Well, let's see. I worked at a theater for a long time, for like 5 years as a manager. And then I worked at a sign shop for a while doing design work, designing signs. I helped install some Cat 5 networks at some schools in St. Louis. Yeah. They needed somebody that could go up and do stupid things on a ladder.
Did you have the tennis ball and throw the line? You ever hear about that trick?
No, it was mostly there was old schools that had like 2 foot thick walls, and so they needed. They needed somebody that would get up on a ladder, and you had these huge drills, like a 3 foot long, that thick drill bit, and you just hang on for dear life as this thing went, and hope to heck you didn't hit like a steel rod or something because it would literally throw you off the ladder.
Crazy
if it hit. So I did that for a summer, and I think I had enough of that, so it was done. So, and then after that, I started just sign shop on my own and did that for quite a while, which was handy because when I started doing True Dungeon, I had a lot of equipment and some skills I could use to make props and such.
Sorry to almost interrupt you there, but I was about to say, it sounds like all of these different things in your life, even from beginning as a child playing in barns and basements, built all the necessary skills to create True Dungeon. So,
Yeah, I guess you'd say that. Yeah, yeah. I was the theater business taught me a lot about how to manage crowds and entertain folks and to keep them
oh,
happy and how to clean up after them and that kind of stuff. And I had a good time there. It was nice working with. Again, I loved it because my job was to show movies to people. That's like awesome, and did it really well, I think. Yeah, I got some rewards and came up with some. They still use some of the sheets that worksheets and stuff that it came up with.
wow.
I'm told 30 years later.
It
So
must have been good. That's cool. I always
yeah,
thought that
must
I would
be.
love working at a movie theater because I
Yeah,
love watching movies, but then I think I would get too jealous that I'm not in the movies, so
yeah. What's nice though, you get to see the movies like way ahead of time. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. We used to get in Missouri. There's this weird law where in order to allow people to bid on your movie, you have to show it. It can't be just bought sight unseen.
What does that mean,
So,
bid on a movie? I don't understand.
well, theater chains have to like bid a certain, well, at least back in the 80s and early 90s. They had to decide if they really wanted, like, let's say Dead Poets Society came out. I think it came out in 88. I actually went and saw that about 3 months before it came out, and it was not finished. It was
Wow.
color corrected.
Mm-hmm.
It was, but because they had to show it so that by law in Missouri, so that film buyers could then decide whether they want the movie or not. So I got to see a bunch of movies, sometimes months ahead of time, and it was fun to watch them because they weren't done. I saw Terminator 2 about a month before it came out, and a lot of the special effects weren't done. The sound effects, there was just cap gun sounds from the actual blanks.
Funny.
They didn't have yeah, and there'd be like they'd walk in, like I saw, let's see, that Stephen Seagal movie, Out for Justice. He'd open a door, and then the next scene he'd open it again from the inside of the room.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was fun. I really liked that. That was neat to see movies way ahead of time. So yeah, because somehow the guy that ran the theater before me got on some kind of mailing list, so I got to go up and see these movies. I had a good time.
That's very cool. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's check the chat here. I think Corey wants to know if that's why is that why the ultra rare tokens is purple, because purple
Could
is
be. Yep, I really like purple.
yeah.
I thought purple would be regal and cool for sure.
Yeah, and also, what is it? The artifact tokens are purple, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
Look at us learning. How about that, people in
Learning
chat? We're learning all kinds of cool
purple.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's see. Someone else has said, "Did you? What's your favorite book series? Do you have a favorite book series?"
Hmm. Well, I know it's going to sound boring, but it's got to be Lord of the Rings. That's the
It's
only
not
one.
boring.
I mean, it's the only one I can personally read it like every year and still find new stuff that at least I don't
Cool.
remember. But I can find it's so depth and so interesting to me, and you can find little things. I still read it about once every year. I also like the Tom Clancy stuff, which
Hmm.
I really like too growing up. But yeah, I would say Lord of the Rings for
Okay,
sure.
that's a good one.
Yep.
Let's see here. That's why TB says that's why Trent Studio was purple. Yeah, I too.
Yep.
I guess like some
Yeah.
purple things. All right, so let's see. Next up is True Dungeon. Can you tell us
Yes.
what inspired True Dungeon? How did you come to the point to say, I want to do this?
Well, it was with Jeffcon. So in '97, I decided to have. I come from a college town, so I'd have all these really great folks come in, stay for a few years, and leave. And so I met all these really great gamers over the 10 years or so. And now you
Well, I'm just
disappeared.
I thought
All
maybe
right,
people like to see
I'll
you.
stand. I'll stand up a little better then. Yeah. So I thought it'd be really great to try to get people to come back to town once a year and have an old convention with all the old old friends. So it was kind of a spur of the moment idea. It was '97, and we rented a cabin out at Giant City State Park, and I told everybody how awesome it was going to be, and that it was going to be round the clock gaming, and I was going to have this awesome D&D module ready for them, and they were all excited. And so then I had to figure out what the heck was going to make this D&D module awesome. And I happened to come upon something that looked, actually I brought this, something that looked like this. You can't see it on the camera, but there are little teeth marks in this.
Yeah, we
This
can
is
see
a
it. Yeah.
this
Or I
is a
can see
little
it.
piece. Yeah, this is a little piece of sassafras that the beavers in this area, they love to find this stuff and strip the bark off, and they leave that floating in the water. I found something like that, and I thought, well, this would make a really cool prop, and maybe I could even turn it into a puzzle. So I cleaned it up, let it sit out for a few weeks. Then I stained it, added some cabochon red gems, rubies, and carved in like a kind of like a cross looking thing. And in the bottom, I put a little secret compartment that had a scroll that had the command word for the staff of healing. So if they found this thing and could activate it, then they'd be able to access the healing there. And then once that idea hit me, then I thought, well, I could just do other things. So I came up with I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought a rabbit skin, and I came up with a puzzle where you had to kind of fold it together and connect two things, and then it would spell a message out. That was that first year. I've got a couple other props here. This was one that I made a couple years later. It had like a little little
Cool.
thing on it, and you're supposed to hold it up to your eye and look in through a light, and you can see a little symbol, but and a little figure of a little devil guy. But what I did was I took and put a permanent marker right along here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically the room was set up was there somebody would look in it first, and then their whole eye would get, the old joke.
Sure.
But it was a cursed scroll. They got insight, but they also got cursed. They got this black ring around their eye, and since it was Sharpie, it lasted quite a while. So that was kind of fun. This is another one. It's supposed to be like a flute. I think this was one, and it has a little symbol of you guys might recognize that, some of the old folks. There's a little guy blowing. Anyway, back in the day, they had these pens that you could blow through, and it would blow basically invisible ink remover onto a page. So I had a secret message written in invisible ink, and then if you took this and blew on it, it would blow out the remover, and you would see the secret message. And again, there was a puzzle, and there's 3 holes here you had to cover up, or there wouldn't be enough pressure for the stuff to fly out. So that's how you found another secret message, was using those things. So those are kind of the props I came up with, and I just kind of steadily improved them as the years went by.
Almost everything you just mentioned has a puzzle element. Where
Sure.
is that fascination with puzzles? Because personally, and everybody who's played with me will know this, I'm horrible at puzzles. Thank
Me
God
too.
you have a combat mechanism in the game, or I don't think I
Sure.
could play at all. What
Sure.
is it with you and puzzles? Where'd that come from?
Oh, it was probably. I'm not good at puzzles myself either. It's a totally different part of your brain that solves puzzles than makes them. So
Hmm.
I completely understand. I'm not sure. I think for me, I mean, I don't think I'm good at puzzles, so I don't think it's one of the case where it's like something you're good at, you want to do. I just saw how entertained people were, and how like the emotions that it can conjure when people solve them or they're frustrated. It takes the D&D game and takes it up to another level, because it's so much more intense than just rolling dice and that kind of thing. So that's probably the big reason that I went to those. I just thought, plus as a DM also, it gives you a little bit of break and gives the campaign some much needed non-combat time.
So speaking of that, when you play D&D, are you mostly always the DM? So you're the one creating these different things?
I was at the back in the day. I haven't DM'd like a campaign in, geez, since probably 20 years.
Hmm.
I've been too busy with, I had a Dwarven Forge job, and I also had doing True Dungeon at the same time. So I stopped DMing a long time ago. It'd be nice to go back and do a little campaign again. It'd be kind of fun.
Pardon the New York sirens there. It's
Sure,
live.
no worries.
Um, I was one of my little thoughts here when I was taking notes to for this conversation. Have you ever considered yourself the dungeon master of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, but the game is True Dungeon?
Yeah, I think sometimes I when I'm doing this stuff, I'm trying to imagine like how a lot of people would enjoy it. How can I make it better? And so yeah, I try to feel like I'm trying to, when you're DM, all the players are different, and you can throw in one element to make this guy over here happy because he's like a big hack and slasher, and then
Mhm.
the lady over here wants to have some cool spooky atmosphere, just different things. So yeah, I try to think of the True Dungeon, I don't know, fan base, I guess, is just like typical gamers sitting around a table, and I'm just trying to make them all happy with my campaign. So
Perhaps
yeah.
some of that customer experience at the movie theaters came came in helpful when people were not happy with things. Have you ever had to deal with like unhappy customers at True Dungeon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've had lots of strong reactions. So that's the thing. That's the deal, though. If you make something cool and people really like it, you're also going to get a lot of, negative, strong reactions. So you got to take the good with the bad. And it just means that you've created something that'll make people passionate. Sometimes it's not what you want to hear. Sometimes I've had some threats of violence emailed to me.
What?
It's yeah, you don't. One of the dangerous things to do at a game convention is to challenge someone's perceived self worth and value. We've had some, yeah. So but I must say, it's 99 to 1 good feedback to negative. But you tend to remember the negative ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Do you remember my first feedback about True Dungeon?
No, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I just
See, it
remember I
wasn't
was like,
negative. That's why you don't
uh,
remember.
yes, that's right.
So if you may not remember, but I'll bore you with this. A friend of mine um, introduced me to Gen Con. He was my local dungeon master as well. Sean is his name. And he said, hey, me and some friends, we usually meet up every year at this thing called Gen Con, a gaming convention. And I was like, oh, well, what is that? I had never been to one. And he said, oh, and just kind of as an afterthought, he said, oh, we also play this game called True Dungeon. And then he started talking about tokens. He said, don't worry, you don't need to buy any tokens. I have a bunch. I was like, okay, great. But as he kind of walked away, he turned around and said, if you want, you could buy one weapon, and then I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll buy a weapon that I would like to play with. If I'm going to be a ranger, I'll buy a bow or whatever. So I went to
Sure.
truedungeon.com, bought the +2 death cleaver, did a little more research, and some people may have heard this before, but I realized that, or I found out that it could turn into a +3 death cleaver, and on and on and on. And then there's this other thing that was about tokens, and or that was about treasure. It could give you more treasure. Then the floodgates. It's been a while since I've done this.
Then the floodgates opened. And now I have a little bit of a problem. Yeah, nobody knows troubles.
Yeah, so there you go. And that summer, prior to Gen Con, I met a ton of different people. Kirk and Ed and Chad and SmackDown and Raven and all kinds of other people on the forum to do all kinds of trades. And I'm just so amazed at how kind everybody was. And everybody was so sweet and generous. And then I guess I had a question for you, and I just emailed you, and you answered me. And I thought, well, that's kind of nice. The creator, he emailed me back, and I ended up getting a golden ticket before my first run. So my first run was Gen Con 2016, a golden ticket run. So I'd never been to Gen Con, never been to True Dungeon, and so I was doing a GT run. And I had Binia, the amazing Jenny. She made me and my friends, the sashes. So it was loaded with the cool tokens. And I had no concept that when you start, you just have a 10-pack. That was totally fine, But when I was there playing with fellow golden ticket holders, and the majority of them were decked out as well, people were kind of like, "What do you mean this is your first time? What are you talking about?" Then, so to me, it was whatever. But by then, you and I had talked a few times, and after the run, you asked me, and I almost feel like you were a little worried that I had already invested so much time and energy into this that I wouldn't like it, and that's the impression that I got when you were asking me for my opinion. So what did you think?
Sure.
So I'm not sure if you remember that or not, but I thought it was.
I remember talking to you after your first run. I was nervous because you seemed like you were really into it. I didn't want you to be disappointed. So hopefully,
So for everybody who's watching and who just heard what Jeff said, that's Jeff, the sweetest, kindest person ever, who's created the most amazing game. And the reason he's done it is so all these other people can have fun. And that's True Dungeon. So if anyone is listening or watching this and they've never played True Dungeon, you're in for a big treat. It's an amazing game. Give it a try. And I guarantee you'll love it. You got to at least try it once. I'll tell you that. So yeah, Snake Eyes, I have that question. He's asking about how tokens first came to be. That's on my list. So you sent me some photos. I'd like to show these photos, and you can tell me what we're looking at here. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Right,
sorry,
so
I'm killing my phone. Yes.
Someone's calling you. Tell them to stop calling you.
It was an alarm that I had set a while ago. All righty.
Okay.
This.
So what are we looking at here?
This are 6 handsome gentlemen.
I see 5 handsome people. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I see 5.
5, yeah. Anyways, this is the first Jeffcon. This was 6 of us. We rented a cabin out at Giant City. We called it Giant City Con, but everybody just called it Jeffcon during the event. They kept telling me they're going to call it Jeffcon from now on. So I switched the name the next year.
What year is this?
This is 1997. This is 1997. 3 of these people in this picture I game with every week.
No way.
Still do. One of them's my brother, who I don't game with, but he lives out east. And then the guy on the end by the die, he lives up in Chicago. Rob, he's a good dude, and I see him as much as I can. So it's these are still some good friends. So it was a great time, and this was our first attempt at getting together and gaming, and it grew. Just more of our friends heard about it, and we were able to plan a little bit better, and I was able to get it. At one time, I think I got it all the way up to about 24 people that were old college friends or lived in the area. It got a little too big. It was a little too hard to manage everything.
And what were you guys doing there? Just D&D, Avalon Hill?
We did a bunch of different games. Car Wars, Wizard's Quest, I think, an old board game. D&D, and probably ended up playing a game of Magic Realm, and I think we also played Dungeon Quest, I think. So yeah, we played a bunch of different games. It was a blast, and it's a great place if you ever want to just take some time off. Come down to Carbondale, go to Giant City State Park, and rent a cabin and chillax.
Very cool. So this continued as Jeffcon, and when did you start doing your puzzles and the walkthroughs, etc.?
At this one, I started. This is the first one. This is where I had that staff of healing, the rabbit skin, and a few other things. Wow. So that's why I wanted to make this first D&D game kind of fun and interesting. as it went on, I eventually started like having a final room. We moved it from here to a hotel in Marion Drury Inn. One of the attendees was a manager there, so we got like a suite, and I would DM it in one room, and then for the final room, we'd go across the hallway into the suite. And they got, so I could, usually like one year it was a floor puzzle they had to walk across, but they had to put a sheet over their head or a pillowcase over their head, and the group had to like talk them across and back without stepping on the wrong thing. So that was kind of fun. So they eventually got more and more elaborate. I had more time and more insanity took hold. And at one point I started bringing in like prefab wooden panels and screwing them together.
Yeah, and you're off to the races then.
Yeah.
So what about this here? What is this?
Oh, this is how True Dungeon happened. Was basically couple of months before this March date. This is when Jeffcon 2003 happened in March. And I think it was in October. It was at Essen, in Germany. It's the world's largest fantasy fest. It's crazy. But Peter Atkinson was there with Stefan Picorni. They were sharing several drinks, and Jen kind of just announced they were moving to Indy from Milwaukee, and he was really happy because they had so much more room. Milwaukee was tight, and they had all kinds of room, a lot more hotels, a lot more space. So he was looking for some kind of big event. He was telling Stefan to basically, I'd love to have some kind of cool maze event or something to use the space up. It'd be cool. And then that's when Stefan had come to Jeffcon the year before. And he had seen one of these final rooms that I had made, and he was like, "Hey, I know this crazy dude in Southern Illinois. It's in the middle of nowhere. You got to take this tiny little plane and fly into this tiny little airport, and it's scary as hell. But if you go, you'll really like it because he does what you're looking for. He does like a D&D thing that's kind of live action. At least the last room is. Maybe he could just do a whole thing for you." So this was I actually had this engraved cut out of a piece of wood and sent to everybody. This is the invitation for most folks. There's a special cipher you had to read on the side to gain some extra bonus stuff when you got to the con. But I had sent these out before he had talked to Peter in October. So he called me in November and said, "Hey, I talked to Stefan. He told me kind of what you did." And I said, "Well, if you want to see it, come on out. It's in March. I'll send you an invitation. And see what you think. I would be interested." I'm always kind of a gung-ho guy about, heck, I can do it. I didn't have any idea how I'd do it, but I thought I could figure it out. So I sent him this, and then I also sent him a scroll, which was about similar to this. It was looked like old aged bone, and it had two stoppers on the end. And this was kind of scary because this was like a year or 2 years after 9/11. I put a couple of, they called them Chinese firecrackers when I was a kid. They're just like the poppers, but you'd pull them and they'd explode like a firecracker. So I attached them together, and basically if you open the wrong end, it would explode.
No.
So I was a little worried he might not get it, that he might not think I was too amusing. So I kind of pre-warned Johnny. She was the event person at the time. "Hey, you might want to be in Peter's office when he opens this scroll up, because it'll be kind of funny. You're going to want to see the reaction on his face, and then maybe you can explain that I wasn't trying to kill him." So anyway, he opened it, got the wrong end, of course, and he loved it. He was like, "Oh, this guy is a nerd of epic proportions. He's definitely somebody I need to do some business with." So he came to Jeffkon, and
that's what this is here, right?
Yep, that's his badge. I made out special badges for everybody. That was the logo. We had a T-shirt every year. This and a theme. The theme this year was the big one. The big events was the Battle of Helm's Deep. So this was the T-shirt had the back of it had like Gimli, Legolas, and then me, and me was much bigger. So yeah, that was the fun thing that we did. That was the big mega game event there. But he came and he played in the D&D tournament. His group ended up winning, as you might see in the next photo.
Okay.
Clue.
This one here.
Maybe. Yeah, there he is. So this is Jeffcon 2003. That's Peter and Stefan both. Peter is the guy that's the lowest, and Stefan's the guy with the evil grin and black hair. And they had a great time. And the funny part about that year was I went kind of hog wild and made the special room in the suite was it had a secret door. So you had to basically futz around and figure out how to open the secret door. And then once you went inside, you got there was a fountain, and you had to reach your hand across to grab the key that you needed. And then I had it rigged so a gloved hand would come up out of the water and grab you. And it scared the snot out of every group. It was hilarious. I loved that. That was so fun.
Back to your haunted roots when you were a kid in the barns, in the basements.
Yeah, I found this phosphorescent dye you'd add to water, and then I had a UV light in there, and it was a black glove, and it looked so creepy coming out of that phosphorescent water. That's where the term blue hand comes from, because the rubber gloves somewhat leaked over time, and if you did that job very long, your hand turned blue from the ink. So It was everybody that was basically a behind-the-scenes prop person got a blue hand that first year in 2003, and that's where the term came from. If you've ever heard blue hand for prop hand.
Yeah, so. I assumed it was like a green screen thing, green or blue. You can't see it because it would be so.
No, their hand was literally dyed blue, and it did not come off for a while. So they just soaked in it for hours. But the next day, me and Peter went to lunch next door at the Bob Evans, and we pretty much figured out all the True Dungeon that morning over pancakes, how it was going to work and the structure and everything. And it was like a handshake deal. He gave us, I think, $5,000 to buy the materials for the walls that we're going to need and to make the walls. And it was great. It was a great start on the budget. And Peter was visionary enough to trust this crazy dude with his money. And then, so that was like in November. And then I went in, me and Lori went to, I believe it was, that was in March. I talked to him in November, but then after that, and we agreed on everything. Then in April, I went to Indianapolis and saw the room we were going to do it, and tried to figure out how the heck we were going to do all this stuff. So we didn't have much time. There was only a few months, and it was too late to get into the program book. So we weren't even in the, you couldn't buy tickets for it on, if you went up to the event booth, it wouldn't be in anywhere in the listings. It would be anywhere on the computer. They couldn't sell you tickets. So they were cool enough that they just let us sell our own tickets. And there wasn't anything in the program book about us at all, except they managed to fit in a one-page ad way in the back, sandwiched in between a couple of the listings. So I don't think hardly anybody saw it. But we ended up, we managed to, the first couple of hours a little hit and miss, but then after, I think word got out about 1:00 on that Friday, I think it was Thursday. Then after that, we had full runs. So, and this photo Wednesday night is the play test. This is the first group ever to play True Dungeon. The guy in the very back with the beard and the glasses, that's Stu. He's passed away since today, but he was their DM. And there was one other person, I think, somebody worked at the hotel, and she was just the hospitality person, and she wanted to play, and I was like, great, sure. It was good to have her too, because she ended up solving the first puzzle. Nobody had a clue. It was great. So
that's cool.
That showed me that it was, I think I did the puzzle right, and it could be used, by anybody. So a good diverse team is good. So, and that's kind of how it led up to it. Luckily, I had a bunch of cool friends from Carbondale area that would come to Gen-Con with me and help me run it that first year.
That's amazing. You mentioned word of mouth is how people ended up playing
Sure.
and buying tickets. And for the fans, they'll probably know that the tickets turned into be wooden tokens with the time written on it. And I think it was Lori who was writing those times.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple different people write them in, but I mean, I wanted it. We were going to sell tickets. I thought, let's make something cool. So I had seen wooden nickels before at like bars, and so we had the back of them made, and then we left the one side blank so we could write the time in, because I thought it'd be a lot cooler to have, a cool keepsake that you could have than just a piece of paper.
Now, did people? I thought I heard that people turned those in, and that's how they redeemed their tickets. Is that not true? Did you intend for them to keep them?
No, I think they turned them in. I just thought it'd make a cooler ticket than just a piece of paper.
Yeah, so those for the crazy token collectors out there like me, though, I call those a time token is what I call them.
Sure.
And I have a couple, and they were some of the hardest ones to track down.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember if they got to keep them or not. I wasn't working the front, so I'm not sure what they ended up doing. Have to ask Lori. I don't know if she would remember, but
she's in chat. She could tell us. But I thought people handed them in. That's what I thought I heard.
I don't know. So yeah, they're definitely rare. I wish I had some. So
yeah. Okay, so yeah, Raven has 3. I think I have 2 or 3. They're some of my most treasured tokens. Speaking of tokens, in chat, someone asked this, and I think it was Snake Eyes, and it's on my list as well. Where did the idea of tokens come from?
Well, with True Dungeon, what I was trying to do is, I was a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, is I wanted to, get some of the most iconic type of elements of TD or of Dungeons and Dragons into the game. So of course one of the biggest is treasure and XP. So we did that. We did the XP, but we couldn't really figure out a way to do treasure really. But then I remembered the wood nickels that we had used for tickets, and I thought, well, we could just print on the other side what they are, and it would be a cool way people would get some kind of keepsake, and it would make their character a little bit better, and they could, it'd be fun to equip that way. So at first, the first time we did them was at Gen-Con SoCal in 2003. So the first Gen-Con, True Dungeon didn't have any. They weren't made yet. It wasn't until after I saw how successful it was and that it was something we were going to keep doing that I started trying to add the treasure component. And that's how I took the idea of the tickets, the wooden nickel tickets, and somehow representing treasure and put them together. You could buy the 10 packs there at the store, and then you also could find them in the dungeon. We'd randomly put them in places. That ended up being a bad idea. And then I think you got to pull 1 or 2 at the beginning, or at the end. I think, I don't remember honestly. Yeah. But yeah, it was really cool. And then for me, I really liked, one of the things about gaming I like so much is like the strategic decisions of, like, if you're playing Car Wars, how much armor do you want versus how much armament do you want versus weight versus speed. So I thought it'd be really cool to have, being able to get treasure and to kind of equip your character and have all that fun.
So what about the combat portion? How did you come up with that? So we've covered where all the design and kind of the foundation of all of that and tokens, D&D, wooden nickel. How about the combat portion? I think you had invented a sliding game, and maybe that what inspired this?
I mean, when I found out we were doing True Dungeon, it was like for sure doing it April, and we only had like 4 months to come up with a whole game and build everything. So I took a friend of mine, Aaron. He was in that photo, and we jumped in my truck and we just drove around Southern Illinois for a couple hours. I'm telling you, that's like one of the best ways to creatively come up with ideas is driving. There's something about driving that frees up part of your brain. I don't know. I just seem to come up with better ideas when I'm driving. I don't know what it is, but that's what I do a lot. I like to just jump in the truck and just brainstorm with some folks. So me and him ended up designing the whole like True Dungeon game that afternoon, driving around the hills and valleys of Southern Illinois. So the combat system came, you were correct, pretty close from my Regent game. There's a game I made I think the second year or third year of True Dungeon. So it would have been like 99. I made this game where I took a big 4x8 piece of signboard, really nice, smooth, and I painted it and put all this vinyl on it. And it was a dice sliding game. So you had to roll the dice and then slide them and try to hit different areas, different planes of existence to cast different spells. So, and that was a very popular game around Jeffcon. Everybody wanted to play that all the time. In fact, I think people love that game, and they still want to play it. It's kind of cool. I brought it to Gen Con once to play it out in I think it was in 2006. I didn't get to play it much, but it's a fun game. Anyway, that was the inspiration for the sliding. I thought I wanted to have some kind of physical skill because with True Dungeon, it's about, you can rolling dice is fun, but if you really want to feel your palms sweat and your heart beat and the pressure, you got to have some kind of physical skill. And I couldn't come up with anything. I didn't want to do boffer weapons. I wanted to keep it really accessible to anybody. So I thought, well, let's just go with like the shuffleboard / Regent type of mechanic I've gone with. People seem to really like it. So that's where the sliding came up with. Yeah.
Very cool. And how about the slogan? Let's see, real dungeon, real props, real cool. Where does that come from?
Well, that came after Peter told me I was going to get sued if I used the original one. So the original one was...
Should we not say what the original one was? I don't want to get sued here.
No, it's fine. The original one was just going to be a life-size D&D adventure. But he said, don't use D&D. They'll probably come after you. So just come up with something else. So I was just brainstorming one day and I thought, well, I want to let people know that there's like real props, and real like rooms, that type of thing. And then I just added the real cool later because I thought it was a funny kind of twist on the whole thing. And yeah, I think it was mostly out of desperation. I had to come up with something. I had to get them a logo like the next day, and I had to come up with something. So
this would have been 2003. So had you already come up with the name True Dungeon? Did that exist? How did you come up with that, and when did that?
That was that day where they're like, "Hey, we need a logo." So I had to come up with a name and a logo and a tagline that day for the because they wanted to put that. They needed a name to call it, and then they also wanted to put together that one-page ad. And since it was already like April, those books are printed way ahead of time. They needed an ad right away, so I needed to come up with a logo and send it to them the next day.
My God, that's crazy. So it almost feels like a lot of this is seat of the pants, but it works.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that are around me know that everything is seat of the pants mostly.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's it works for me. I don't know why. I guess I'm lucky, but yeah, most of the inspirations and stuff, it's hard to sit down and just say, today I'm going to write a puzzle. But you're just hanging out at, I don't know, you're at the airport and you look over and you see this big column that's like 4 feet thick and it gives you an idea for a puzzle, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I was looking through some old Facebook photos. Which reminds me, if I'm not mistaken, you said that this is your most favorite photo of all time. Isn't that what you said?
I believe the left side.
Yeah, so as you can see, everybody, he said that was his most favorite. This is PAX West 2019. I was going to find another photo of us. We from I guess I physically met you briefly at the Golden Ticket Run, but you were running around like crazy, so I didn't really get a chance to talk to you too much. But in chat here, Kyle Fitty says TD Celebration from TD Celebration 2017. That's when I really met you. I think the first time. And
Sure.
I got a cool photo with you. I was really happy about that. And that's actually where I asked you if I could have a little table, because I wanted to introduce or launch, if you will,
Sure.
tokens. And I handed out the mugs with the little token in the bottom because I thought the 2005 mugs was just so cool. It was like my homage. And I had
Yep.
one of those D20s that you roll, and if you crit, it lights up. So I had a little sign that made up and said, if you roll the crit, you get a mug. And I was just being a dork, and somebody could roll a 1, and I would say, "Oh, you win! Here's your mug." So I was really just handing out the mugs because I wanted people to have them.
Sure.
So, yeah, Fiddy says we need to have another one of those. That would be cool. Do you think we'll ever do? I mean, once the world is come to some semblance of normalness, do you think we'll ever do another True Dungeon celebration again?
Yeah, I would like to, especially after this crazy year or two. Who knows what's going to happen? But I don't know when it would be. I've decided like about 4 months ago to not make any plans. Not make any
Is to make no
plans.
plans.
Basically, just let it roll with it, and yeah, because it's just a crazy year, and I have no idea, but that is a general goal. When we did it the first time, we didn't want to do them every year, every 2 years. We thought we would just do them every once in a while to keep them special and cool. And yeah, I think there will be one. There'll be some people with dragon orbs that'll have something similar coming up. But I definitely want to have one for just everybody, for sure.
Yeah. So I only have a couple more questions here. For those of you in chat, feel free to shoot some questions here. I'm looking at a lot of the different chat thing here. It looks like everybody's having a nice little back and forth with each other. I really appreciate all of you guys and gals, and others coming in and chatting. It's really amazing. TDC for the teeth. So, we got the teeth. It's next year, right?
Yeah.
Then I think the orbs are the year after that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. We've got some things working in the works, so who knows what'll happen with the teeth too. That's cool. Yeah, we'll see. A lot of it just depends on things. I have no idea what's going to happen. So
yeah, I hear you. So again, everybody in chat, if you have any questions for Jeff, go ahead and shoot them. Type them up now. And any we don't get to, I will try to use them in a future episodes with Jeff. I hear you. When it comes to physical conventions right now, it's just not on my mind. I'm with you, not making any plans. But the virtual True Dungeons has been a godsend, I think, to all the fans, and I've been an enormous fan of those, and I tell everybody about them. And
me too.
I bet you do.
I needed the virtual True Dungeon probably more than you guys did. I needed to be out there doing stuff, telling stories and entertaining folks. And yeah, I don't know how I was going to survive like a year or two, who knows, without doing TD. So I'm having fun. So I appreciate you guys supporting the event so that I can have the fun of putting them on.
Yeah, it does sound like that's your joy. For me, I like seeing other people smile. So that's how I become happy, when I see other people that are happy. So it seems like your joy is other people enjoying things that are having a good time with something you built.
Sure.
So it's amazing that Virtual True Dungeon just was so successful, and is so successful, and I think will continue to be successful. But I won't dive too much into that because I would like to do special Virtual True Dungeon episodes in the future. But let me check chat here. Let's see. So, ask how difficult was it to get volunteers for the first few years? Steve asked that question.
Good question. The first year it was pretty easy because they're friends of mine, and I begged them, and they kind of owed me for doing all the Jeffcon stuff all those years beforehand. So yeah, and they were all going to go. Most of them were going to go to Gen Con anyway. And then, hey, this way you get they gave us free hotel rooms and a free badge. They were pretty excited. And some of them had probably more fun than I did that first year. We were just figuring it out as we went. There was no, we didn't know what we were doing. So we figured it out. We had fun, and it was a blast. The second year we were able to, Gen Con was able to, again, I asked the same friends, and Gen Con was able to send us a few volunteers. That's where we ran into Dave Radke.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Heidi Neff was around for a long time. Vance, or Lance, and oh, I'm gonna get killed. Oh man, I'm blanking. Her last name's Huff. She was awesome. Jennifer, I don't know. Lance and her were awesome. They did a lot of stuff.
Hough. Yeah, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
That's
was
where
awesome.
that's my Ring of Three Wishes. That's where that comes from. I have hers. It went from her to Gary to me, which is a future episode, by the way. So
yeah. Sorry, I have a bad memory for names. But they worked their butts off too. But yeah, the first 3 years it was just basically the same folks, and then a few extra ones that Gen Con was able to provide. So, and then it started growing, and we were able to like solicit volunteers. It was once, it's sort of like they say in the haunt business. The first year you do your haunt, you have to talk your friends into doing it, and then after that, you can just find volunteers that have people that have played your haunt and went through it and loved it and want to be part of it. So. That's the cool thing about True Dungeon is it seems to attract a lot of awesome folks. And
who's your oldest volunteer? Speaking of the awesome folks,
continuous, probably.
Yeah, who's from today?
Warren Snyder. He's done it every year since the beginning.
No way.
Yeah, in fact, the second year of SoCal, he actually drove the moving truck from Carbondale all the way out to Anaheim and back. It took him a couple of days at least, and he didn't do it again. But the first time, we just didn't have a budget to do it by freight. It was cheaper to. And then we had the reason that was we were at a place that had union stuff. Teamsters. So if you showed up with freight truck, you had to pay the Teamsters. If you